French Foreign Legion, right? So what is this famous Gestapo interview I've heard about?
Yeah, man, it's pretty much an interrogation, and it's different lengths for different guys. But mine was like multiple days for like 8 hours. It was they put you in a room with some high-ranking senior enlisted guys, smart guys who speak multiple languages, and they have a team working in this secure building that's looking all your open source stuff, any social media, jobs, background checks, all that shit. And then they trying to poke holes in your game, seeing where the lies are. What are you lying about? What are you trying to hide? And they'll call you a liar or this or that, a fucking, and they poke some stuff in mine. And it was, they had one day and then they looked at it. They said, come back another day. And so I went back multiple days. So it was stressful. But at the last time, the guy was like, look, okay, this is going to be hard. You're going to have to swallow your pride and your ego. And I know where you're coming from, and this is going to be, you're going to tell you to clean toilets, and some young corporal is going to be telling you how to shoot, and he's like, you're going to have to be like, okay, and just shut the fuck up. And I was like, yeah, I get it. And so that was good. And then we went in, but it's very stressful, that part. You're in a secure building with big bars, and it's like their NCIS or something.
Hmm. Was there anything in particular going into that interview if you could get away with it, you were trying to hide from them?
I was pretty honest about my stuff. I didn't tell them everything, right? Because it would have been so much shit of just my whole life, right?
Yeah.
But I told them what was up. I told them I got kicked out of the military. They knew, but they were like trying to figure out why. And I told them, but it's just hard to explain. It's in English, and it's not their first language, and so it wasn't really like me hiding anything. I told them, and they brought up some other stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that, But the beautiful thing is that it's not the Boy Scouts, so they know you're not there because you're some. They know you're not there because shit worked out, and you're some squeaky clean motherfucker, right? So they didn't want to know. They didn't want any trouble with the United States government. That was really their thing. Like, does this guy wanted for war crimes or something? Why the fuck's he here? So they were just really worried about that. Sexual crimes, they're worried about anything that has to do with arms trafficking internationally and shit like that. They just don't want those big issues, but everything else is pretty smooth.
And another sort of famous thing that comes up when you search French Foreign Legion is this farm. Tell us, what is this farm?
It's a literal farm, right? And so it's a literal farm out on the French Pyrenees Mountains on the Spanish border that every combat company in their boot camp division or in their boot camp regiment has a farm. And on this farm is a structural building, some ranges, some obstacle courses, all that shit. And you live there for a month and get your dick pushed in, right? Your long patrols to sleeping outside to up doing an O course to learning French, getting you all that weapons manipulation, some basic small unit tactics, all that shit. Tests on the weapons and the parts, so this or that. And I mean, they would tell us to eat, then tell us, shut the fuck up. Somebody made some noise, dump our food in the trash. Dudes be trying to eat out of the trash, bro. It's like a lot of calorie deficit and running. Looking back, it was pretty beautiful. If I could have looked up, right? You're running through the French countryside in these small villages and shit. It's cool, man. But in retrospect, but very, very cold because I was there in the winter. Very, very brutal. But yeah, so that's it. And then you do the famous Kepi Blanc march back from there to the main regiment, which is like the 60-kilometer march back, which takes few days. And you kind of sleep outside in these small churches down. And then you come back, you get your Kepi, and then you have 3 more months or like a not quite dog shit on the bottom of the ocean, but like one rung up. And then you keep going from there.
You've gone through, the SEAL selection process and French Foreign Legion. So the question I'd like to ask is, how do the two compare? What you were describing there sounds very similar to the sort of torment that you described to me earlier about Hell Week. How do the two selection processes compare, and which one is the toughest?
SEAL selection's harder just because it's also longer, and I think it's just a little bit more physically demanding. in that capacity, just because the volume also and the times, and it's just a little bit more regimented structurally. So the testing and all that stuff. SEAL selection's harder. Psychologically, the Legion was way harder because of the situation I was in, and a lot of guys are in. You're isolated. You don't know why some guy's yelling at you in French with a Russian accent. He's pissed though. You are eating like no food. You're freezing. Your gear's very minimal. You're lost your whole life. Nobody fucking knows you're out there. You're looking up at planes going by, going, "Oh, I wish I was on that plane going home." All right, I wonder where they're going. Probably somewhere tropical, right? There was these moments where you just realize how far away you are. So that made it hard in the sense that you're not operating for your country. Right? You're it's a little bit different, and so that made it a lot more challenging.